My name is Muriel Jenkins, 32 years old, and I never thought I would hear my own father tell me not to come back. Yet there I was, Christmas dinner falling silent around me, turkey growing cold on festive plates as those devastating words hung in the air. I packed my bags. Without a word that night, tears streaming down my face. The next morning I made a decision that would change everything. I cut them off from the money I had been providing them for years. Before you continue watching, let me know where you are tuning in from. And please hit that like and subscribe button if family drama stories resonate with you. I should probably start by explaining how we got to that awful Christmas dinner. For the past 7 years I have been the primary financial support for my family. I work in finance, specifically investment banking, and through a combination of hard work, strategic career moves and, admittedly, some lucky market timing, I became what most would consider wealthy. By my 30th birthday, my portfolio crossed the $1 million mark 2 years ago, and my annual income is now in the mid-6 figures. I never expected to be the successful one in my family, but life has a way of surprising you. My father, James Jenkins, worked at the same manufacturing plant for 28 years before they closed down and moved operations overseas. He was 53 at the time with no college degree and specialized skills that suddenly became obsolete. Despite his best efforts, the only jobs he could find paid less than half his previous salary. His pride took a massive hit, especially since he had always been the provider, the strong one, the man who worked 3 jobs when we were little to make sure we never went hungry. Around the same time Dad lost his job, Mom was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. The chronic pain condition made it difficult for her to continue her part-time job as a school secretary. The medical bills started piling up, especially since their insurance coverage through Dad's work disappeared along with his job. They were too young for Medicare but too cash-strapped to afford decent private insurance. That was when I stepped in. I had just received a substantial promotion and bonus, and it seemed natural to help the people who had sacrificed so much for me growing up. At first, it was just covering a medical bill here, helping with groceries there, but eventually it evolved into a regular arrangement where I sent them $3,000 every month to help with the mortgage, utilities, and Mom's medications. My siblings had different reactions to this arrangement. My younger sister Lauren, who is 27, resented it deeply. She had dropped out of community college and was working various retail jobs, never quite finding her footing. In her eyes, my financial success made her failures more apparent, and my helping our parents highlighted what she couldn't do. Every family gathering became an exercise in navigating her passive-aggressive comments about my fancy job and showing off with expensive gifts. My brother, Ethan, 29, took a more neutral stance publicly. He had completed a teaching degree but was struggling with student loans and the modest salary of a high school history teacher. He still lived at home with our parents, ostensibly to help care for Mom, but the free rent was undoubtedly a factor. He never criticized my help openly, but I could sense his discomfort with the family's dependence on me. We came from a proudly working-class background. Dad had been a union man who valued self-sufficiency and hard work above all else. Mom was the daughter of immigrants who had instilled in her the importance of family loyalty and sacrifice. They had raised us with solid middle-class values, emphasizing education as the path to security. None of us had expected the economic rug to be pulled out from under our parents in their 50s, least of all my father. I could see how my financial help wounded his pride. Each month when I transferred the money, I would get a stiff thank you call from him, his voice tight with what I recognized as suppressed shame. Mom was more gracious about accepting help, but even she would sometimes make comments about when things get back to normal, as if their financial independence was just around the corner. Despite years of evidence to the contrary, Christmas had always been the centerpiece of our family traditions. Mom would decorate every inch of their modest 3-bedroom ranch house, and Dad would spend weeks selecting and wrapping thoughtful gifts, even in the leanest years. The holiday meal was a production that brought out Mom's Polish heritage with 12 traditional dishes. representing the 12 apostles. Even as tensions grew in our family, Christmas remained sacred ground, a time when grievances were temporarily set aside. This year I had hoped things would be different, better. I had brought extravagant gifts, including a vacation package for my parents' upcoming 35th anniversary. I had also brought an extra $5,000 in cash as a holiday bonus of sorts, thinking it might help with the roof repair they had been postponing. I wanted to be generous, to use my good fortune to make their lives easier. The tension started early on Christmas Eve when I arrived. Lauren made a show of comparing her small handmade gifts with my professionally wrapped packages. Mom kept making comments about how I shouldn't have wasted my money on them. Dad was quieter than usual, starting his holiday drinking earlier than I remembered from previous years. I tried my best to keep the peace, complimenting Lauren's creativity, with her gifts helping Mom in the kitchen despite her protest that I would find her methods too old-fashioned compared to my big city ways, and engaging Dad and not conversations about topics he enjoyed. I was walking on eggshells, as I had been for years, desperately trying to be both successful and humble, generous but not showy, helpful without being condescending. By the time we started preparing Christmas dinner, the undercurrents of tension were impossible to ignore. Mom winced with pain as she lifted the turkey, but waved away my offers to help. Lauren rolled her eyes when I suggested a new recipe for cranberry sauce. Dad had already gone through several beers, his cheeks ruddy and his laugh a little too loud, and still I kept up the cheerful facade, determined to make this Christmas special. To buy brief period of harmony with my presents and my gifts. I had no idea how spectacularly my hopes were about to implode. Christmas dinner began pleasantly enough. The dining room table was beautifully set with Mom's best china and the silverware that only came out for special occasions.